Thanks for being here. I'm Stauffer, Vice President of Calvert County Farm Bureau. I'd like to begin by inviting Pastor Reverend Jones with Mount Olive United Methodist Church, Prince Frederick, to call for the invocation. Thank you. Let us pray. Gracious Creator, we come first in thanksgiving. Thanksgiving for the land, for the water. Thanksgiving for the animals that we steward as we steward the land. Gracious God, we come to participate in this representative form of democracy that the founders said created a nation under God. And so may our actions today reflect those who realize that you are the supreme being, that you are the one who has blessed us so richly throughout the years. And may we engage in such a way that we bring honor to your holy name. We ask this in the name above all names, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, thank you, Pastor. All right, now I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So for those that may not be familiar, the Farm Bureau is a nonpartisan organization that advocates for agriculture and rural communities. We have about 160 members here in Calvert County. These represent families who are farming in Calvert County or who support Calvert County agriculture. This forum is part of our effort to support farmers, promote agricultural viability, and ensure that policies reflect the needs of our local farming community. We're here this evening to provide a space for candidates to share their perspective this evening on issues important to Calvert County agriculture. We invited all the candidates for County Commissioner to participate in tonight's forum. It's an excellent turnout from our candidates. We appreciate each of you for being here for this discussion. Our goal here is to give each candidate a fair opportunity to share their perspectives and to help you, the voters, better understand where they stand on key agricultural issues. The candidates were sent the major themes that we'll cover this evening and a list of resources to help them prepare. Before we begin, we'll go over a few ground rules. Each candidate will have 1 minute for introductions and 90 seconds for closing statements. To help us get through the evening and allow some opportunity for audience questions, we're using a structured format to ensure fairness and efficiency. We'll also keep time at the front desk. Right here, we'll have a yellow card that indicates you have 10 seconds remaining, and then we'll hold the red card up when your time is completed. For the audience, please no applause, cheering, or booing during the forum. This will allow us to stay on time and ensure every candidate is heard equally. Audience questions must be submitted in writing and submitted at the table in the back. We will not be accepting any questions directly from the floor. All questions will be reviewed for clarity and implication. We will make every effort to get questions answered. We will prioritize those questions that are directly related to agriculture. For the candidates, please direct all responses through the moderator. There should be no interruptions or direct exchanges between the candidates. Everyone, please take this opportunity to silence your cell phones. Thank you for helping keep this a respectful and informative conversation. Now I'll turn it over to our moderator, Mr. Mike Phipps, former Calvert County Farm Bureau President and past Maryland Farm Bureau President.
See, you already broke the rules. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see all of you here. How about this? 15 people willing to serve as county commissioner. Isn't that great? Yeah. Thank you all. And I think there's 2 more, actually 17 total, so that's great. Okay, here we go. Gotta get these out. That's what happens when you get on old people's insurance. Okay, thank you, Vice President Stauffer. We have 2 primary questions to cover this evening. And we're going to go down the line as we move through the questions and shuffle the order to try and avoid anyone having the advantage of going first or last repeatedly. Later in the evening, we'll go through audience questions. As Vice President Stauffer mentioned, please submit those at the back table before 8:45. If you have a question for a specific candidate or group of candidates, note that on your submission card. Mr. Trilla, Benson Trilla, Chairman of the Soil Conservation District here in the county, will assist you in drafting or submitting the question. Okay, candidates, all take a deep breath. Get ready, okay? You'll be fine. All righty. We're going to start with the introductions. We'll begin with a 1-minute introduction from each candidate. We'll go straight down the line, starting with Judy Peterson. For your introduction, please tell why you are here. I'm sorry. Please tell us who you are and why you're running for county commissioner. Include that in your opening, if you would. We're keeping time in the front at the table. Kathy is over there. And there will be a yellow card when you have 15 seconds. And the red card when your time is expired. Okay? Everyone understand? Okay. So with that, Judy, please. I'll give you the mic.
All right. Well, good evening, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm running for County Commissioner at the at-large level. And I want to start out by saying I love Calvert County, and that's why I'm running. Let me give you a little bit of background. I'm from Los Angeles originally. I came here to finish up my bachelor's degree in communications at the University of Maryland. I met a guy who happened to live down here, and that was 43 years ago this July. And so he brought me down here, and I haven't looked back since. It's been a fantastic opportunity for our family. We've raised 2 daughters. We have 2 grandsons here. And Calvert County has been wonderful to us. His family sent 5 Marines. They were in the maritime business. They ran Spring Cove Boatyard. They also had a boarding house in Solomons many years ago. Boy, I can't even begin to tell you about me in the time remaining, except to say I'm a hard worker, I'm a communications person, I have a lot of work experience, and thank you.
Good evening, my name is Antoine White. I was born and raised in Calvert County also. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to show that you're here because this is something that's very important. I'm running because I was born and raised here and I also love Calvert County. I was raised on a farm. We had pigs and gardens and also tobacco. So if you've ever worked in a tobacco field, you know that it's extremely hard work. But I learned a lot of lessons out there in that tobacco field. I learned about respect, and I learned a lot of lessons, and that also contributed to me not being a farmer, because that was definitely some really hard work. So I really appreciate any and everything that you guys are doing. I'm running for the Board of County Commissioners at large because I do value people. I had some things that I wanted to say, but I had conversations earlier today that reminded me why I'm running. It's because people need to look out for each other and make decisions that will make sure that our farmers are taken care of. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patty Stuckler, and I'm running at large. I moved to Calvert County 39 years ago and just fell in love with the place. I mean, it really is just a little slice of heaven, I think, between the 9 miles, 5 to 9 miles between the bay and the river. So why am I running? I'm running because I want to keep Calvert, the rural, beautiful place that I fell in love with. And I do see that we're changing. We're kind of at a crossroads right now. I have 2 children that went to school here, were born here, 8 grandchildren that live here, that are being raised in the county. So I'm very motivated to bring some common sense, some transparency to this county government and really protect what most people love about this county. Thank you so much.
I'm Commissioner Todd Ireland. I'm born and raised in the county as well. I spent 29 years of my life serving the county as a deputy sheriff. I was born and raised on a tobacco farm. I also had the opportunity to spend a lot of time working on the water, both crabbing and fishing, with my father on the Chesapeake Bay, Patuxent River, and its tributaries. So I retired December 18th of 2021 from the Sheriff's Office, and I filed a run for Commissioner March 18th of 22. I was fortunate enough to win the at-large seat. I've learned a lot since I've been in this seat. There's a lot of changes that we've made. There's a lot of changes that need to be made for the county. And my eyes were open a lot. I mean, I had the pleasure of being able to work with budgets and work with the county commissioners on a previous position at the Sheriff's Office. But until I got in that seat and really saw the whole picture rather than just the portion of it I was dealing with, I found it to be quite challenging, and I'm looking forward to being able to make some changes in this next election, or after the next election. Thank you.
My name is Jason Skaggs. I am also running at large. I was born here in Calvert County. I was raised on my grandfather's 100-acre farm in Lower Marlboro. I started a related business after college. I'm in the excavating business. I spent my summers from the time I was 12 years old to my freshman year in college working for Sambo and Jody Swan. One of the biggest accomplishments of my career was when I was able to afford my own tractor, have a TG 285 New Holland that I'm very proud of. So I'm running because I really wasn't happy with the current list of candidates, and I didn't wait until the last minute to file, the last day. I prefer to stay kind of behind the scenes. I've been heavily involved in the previous 2 elections, and I like to take a little credit for turning our school board red. With that being said, any questions you have, I'll be glad to answer them, and I look forward to getting your vote. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barbara Warner. I grew up in Calvert County as well, and on a farm, and I actually grew tobacco, which a lot of people don't know. I am married, have been married for 33 years. I have a beautiful daughter, and she has given us 2 beautiful grandchildren. I worked for Calvert County government for almost 33 years. I worked in procurement, finance, public safety, and a state's attorney's office, so I'm well-rounded and have a lot of diversity when it comes to Calvert County government. And I retired. I was happy to retire, but I felt like I still had a lot more to give to Calvert County, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm running.
So good evening, everybody. I want to thank Farm Bureau for hosting this event. It's great to get everybody together and get all the. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. But I'm Commissioner Buddy Hans. I live in Port Republic. I'm a 4th-generation farmer. I've been here my entire 70 years, and this is a wonderful place. My last 8 years, I've worked really hard to support the school system, help move it up a couple notches, and if you look at the record of the school system, they've done a great job in the last 8 years, helping our students get off to the right start. I've also spent a lot of time working on land preservation. Our preservation program has been closed for about 12 years, trying to get that back open so some of you that own property can get your farm certified in the district and preserve those farms. That's the only way to truly protect our land, is to get an easement and preserve those farms. Also found out in my 8 years that it's quite a challenge in this little county that we have to balance rural character and find the financial resource that we need to actually run government and provide all the amenities and the services that you all demand and desire. Thank you very much.
So good evening, everyone, and thank you again to the Calvert County Farm Bureau for having us. My name is Ethan Cox, candidate for District 1 County Commissioner. You might be able to tell I'm a little bit on the younger side. Moved here about a year after college by virtue of my parents who arrived here by boat and still live with them. And honestly, that is the reason why I'm running. There are structural issues that impact the ability for young people, including myself, including people like Dylan, Garrett, Logan, to be able to afford to live here, afford to stay here, and especially with farmers too. So many of you and your kids and your grandkids my age have an economic outlook on agriculture that's pessimistic, and have rising costs. And so I am running to be able to preserve the Calvert County way of life that I fell in love with for my generation and for generations to come.
Patrick Flaherty, running District 1 Commissioner candidate. I wasn't born here. I didn't graduate high school here, but I've been part of the fabric of Calvert County my entire life since 1964. I've operated a business, office equipment, sales and service, published a tidbits paper, I've been a real estate agent, and an auctioneer. And I'm running to bring accountability and transparency back into the government. I wrote here. Sorry. I'm running to run and to represent what is in the best interests of the people of Calvert County, to be the gatekeeper, and to govern the government and bring the bureaucracy back under control. We are facing so many things nationally. If you look at the picture economically, compared to our spending, it needs to be under control. Thank you.
Good evening, and I want to thank everybody for coming out. My name is Mike Hart, and I've had the honor to be your District 1 Commissioner for the last 11 years. And they said, why? Why run again? Well, you know, I said to my daughter, when I was running the first time, she said, Dad, why? You're going to take so much time from us. And I said, Lex, you deserve to grow up in the same type of area that I did. The same community. We didn't lock our doors. We talked to each other. You know, it was a very home, very, you know, community-based type thing. And now we have serious challenges from high density, from big business. You know, we still only have one road out here. No matter how much everything tries to come here, there's still one road. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the teachers, the law enforcement. And I just want to try to do everything I can to keep that same rural character and tradition that I grew up in for my children. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us here. My name is Kenneth Lee. I'm running in District 2 as Commissioner. I'm not quite a Calvert Countyan yet. I've only been here for 26 years. I'm originally from Baltimore City. I'm a retired firefighter. We moved to this county 26 years ago for the school systems that were here. Like I say, we came from Baltimore to get away from all the rat race. That's why we're here. That's the beauty of Calvert County, is the ruralness of it. And when you're riding down the street, people actually wave to you, and they're not waving guns at you. So I'd like to see it stay this way. And that's the reason I'm running here, is to keep Calvert rural the way it was when we first came here. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Cox, and thank everyone for coming out tonight, taking your time out to listen to all of us and what's important to Calvert County. So I've been a lifelong resident of Calvert County. I have a wife, 39 years. I have 2 kids that call Calvert County home. I have 5 grandkids that one day I hope they will call home as well. I ran because of public safety. I ran for our schools to make them better. Calvert County is at a crossroads right now, like was said before, and we need to come together. We all need to come together to agree to disagree, but we need to do it. This divisiveness that we are in right now is not what Calvert County was made from. We have to sit down and have conversations to agree. Thank you very much.
Hi everybody, my name is Michael Bennett. I'm running for Board of County Commissioners in District 3. I came to Calvert County on a military transfer 12 years ago. I was in the U.S. Coast Guard for 28 years, 7 months, 6 days, and 13 seconds, but who's counting? I was happy to retire here. I came here 20 years ago and sailed a boat from Annapolis down to Harrington Harbor, and my wife and I decided then that if we ever came back to this area, we wanted to spend the rest of our lives in Calvert County, so this is my forever home. My youngest son went to schools here. Went to College of Southern Maryland, and now he's at UMD. He's about to graduate. I most recently was an executive at Snapchat, where I built 5 data centers around the world, 3 overseas, 2 in the United States. When I heard that a data center was coming to Calvert, I immediately quit my job and came home to help shape that conversation. I do not believe that data centers are in the best interest of Calvert County. I know firsthand the damage we do to communities because I was part of those conversations. And I also think that if they are coming, we need to have better conversations about what's in the interest of the community citizens here to make sure that Calvert's getting the most from that. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Kelly McConkey. I moved here 26 years ago, like some of the others, for the school system. We put our 4 boys through the public schools. We now just had our 4th grandchild, and I hope that they can go through the public schools also. I had the honor of serving on the school board for 4 years and a commissioner for 4 also. What I see in the county now is a huge division amongst us. I'd like to bring the community back together. I'd like to continue serving like I previously did, and I was proud of our board buddy Hanson, Mike Hart. We were able to lower your tax rate and your income tax rate. Since then, it's been raised. I'd like to lower your tax rate back down. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Calvin Grosso and I'm running in District 3 again for County Commissioner. I thank the Farm Bureau for having us here. This is democracy at its finest. I'm running again because I'm not finished. I just started. And anybody who has watched me, anybody who has come to me with a problem knows that my heart is for my constituents. I listen to my constituents. I work for my constituents. I fight. I don't go along to get along. I listen, and any decision I make is made because I have been directed by you. I'd appreciate your vote again. Just getting started. Thank you all so much.
Okay, thank you all for those introductions. At this time, we will have the round 1 question. The first 2 questions are provided by the Farm Bureau itself. And then, if time permits, we will have additional questions from the audience. And I think you all caught on, but before you speak, just make sure the timekeeper is ready for you, okay, so we keep that fair for everyone. And you're welcome to complete up to 2 minutes. If you are skilled and concise in making your point and want to be a little more brief, that's fine too. If you are called time during a sentence, I will let you complete that sentence, but please be brief in completing it. I don't want to be a bad guy. I'm a nice guy. So, okay. For the first question, you have 2 minutes, and we're going to move down the line and start with the District 1 candidates. So Mr. Ethan Cox will begin. Here's the question. Please tell us, how will you ensure agriculture remains a viable industry in our county and not just a legacy? What programs or policies would you support to keep farmland in production long term? Before he starts, would anyone like me to repeat the question? Okay. How will you ensure that agriculture remains a viable industry in our county and not just a legacy? What programs or policies would you support to keep farmland in production long term? Is everybody okay with that? Understand the question? Okay, anytime you're ready, Mr. Cox.
Would you like to? Thank you so much.
Ready?
Yep.
So in my conversations with farmers, I think one of the #1 things is just the supply chain of what we are growing here in Calvert County is not staying here in Calvert County. You know, there's a warehouse in Louis that shut down. A lot of the stuff has to be shipped closer to the airports, closer to the train yards, to be able to be sent out and distributed. And really one of the things that I want to focus on is trying to get the supply chain more internalized in Calvert County. I kind of want to model it off of this bill that the Maryland delegation recently got passed to the U.S. House to try and create a in-state supply chain on blue catfish. Obviously, I'm with the farmers and not the watermen, but I think there's a model there about leaning into our rural character and having the value come from that and not making decisions, say, to build a data center that's just because another rural county did it. To keep farmland in production, really, I think the number one issue that I see, especially long-term, given I got 60 more years to live here, God willing, is, kind of like what we've seen in the past couple years. There's increasing droughts, increasing late season freezes that have really done havoc on our crops. And I think, I don't have the exact answer for it right now, but I think looking at how do we support farmers through, changing weather, changing climate, as well as how do we maybe determine crops that are able to withstand a changing climate, and really working in tandem with the farmers, listening to the farmers just to make sure this industry is able to survive 10 years, let alone 60. Everything is a short and long-term proposition, but at the end of the day, I want to listen to the farmers. I am not one, but I know all you guys are experts in what you do, so I want to be a good listener and keep fighting for you guys. Thank you.
You have to bear with me. I'm not well versed in agriculture and farmers, so I came prepared. For land preservation and zoning, I know that Calvert's farmland is under increasing pressure, and I will oppose rushed rezoning that converts prime agricultural land into industrial large-scale residential developments. And we need stronger protections in the zoning ordinance, including mandatory independent studies on the cumulative impacts before any major changes. And preservation programs that would actually help working farms stay viable, not just create more red tape. Market opportunities for local farms as well. Farmers need real economic opportunities, not just preservation talk. I will work to expand direct marketing on farm sales and partnerships with local restaurants, schools, and institutions. And we should reduce unnecessary regulations and make it harder for small farms to diversify income while keeping Calvert County's rural character intact. On agriculture and farm diversification can be a valuable supplement for farms when done right. I support reasonable policies that make it easier for farmers to host events, tours, and value-added businesses while still protecting neighborhood properties and maintaining the rural feel of the county. The key is balance. Help farms thrive without turning rural areas into entertainment districts. Thank you.
Well, I think one of the big things is understanding that farming's a business. And like any other business, it has costs, it has labor, and everything's been more of a challenge. And, we've done like silly things that went to folks like, we ever bring your tires back, no charge. It sounds small things, but the little nickel dime things like tax credits on barns, and how essential that TDR and PAR program are, because sometimes your back gets against the wall and you need a viable way to get some quick money, and that's where that PAR program, or the purchase and you folks know, and retire program, we've been able to take some of those TDRs, been sitting there where you couldn't move them, working with the farmers and their programs to what is a proper price on TDRs, what you think is a fair move, and understanding and value what those TDRs really are, because without that program, and you went back to the way it was, you could have communities all over the place. That costs the county more money. So it's more valuable to us to have you be stronger. When these big communities come, price tags, more police, more teachers. So it's very important to keep those programs strong, to work with you folks on tax credits. These farmers markets, they're a huge introduction to how much better, no disrespect to chain stores, but we all know stuff coming out of these farmers tastes a whole lot better than it does Safeway. And for people to understand that, and that you are a true small business to be supported, the county needs to make sure we keep doing programs, supporting small business, going out and promoting small business, and letting everybody know, hey, that money that you spend here is keeping food on your neighbor's plate, as well as saving you money too, because if you're successful, we're going to be successful as well. So, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, I don't know too much about farming myself either. Like I said, I was originally from Baltimore. But I do know that it's a viable business here in Calvert. And it needs to start with education with the children to learn how to farm. And we've taken that away from the kids nowadays. Nobody wants to do any type of farming anymore. I was talking to one gentleman today, and they're preventing him from being able to even fertilize his fields properly. We need to be able to slow things down a little bit, folks, and make these things a little more affordable to all your farmers. I mean, the fertilizers, the prices through the roof is what the gentleman was saying. How are you going to afford this? How's it going to keep going? There's got to be grants, some type of grants on this where it can be brought to the people of Calvert County. You know, I like eating fresh strawberries and peaches, so it's a good thing down here. The farming has to keep going, and we need to keep moving forward with it. The land has to be preserved. We have to stop all this high-density building and keep these farmlands the way they are when we came here, and from the families that were here for hundreds and hundreds of years. Thank you.
Farming is changing. Farms are getting smaller. It's getting harder to make a dollar at the farms. So ag tourism is coming down the pike. We've done a lot with economic development for these ag tourisms. And farmers markets. We've done a lot through the economic development side of the farmers markets. There's a couple policies. I would like to make it easier for the TDR program to get into it, whether it's a math program, whether it's a state program, county program. We have 6 different programs you can get into. Let's make it easier to get into these programs. Let's open up the APDs and get land preservations back at the forefront. Another policy we just did, we increased 2 events to 12 events on your farm. So that's another policy we just did. I would like to add more money to the Farm Bureau Ag trailer for our youth. You know, we take it to the fair, we take it to schools all year long, and I would like to add some more money to that program. But it's changing times here, and we need to change with times so that all our farmers can be sustainable throughout Calvert County. Thank you.
Thanks. I think there are 3 things we should focus on for the farmers. One is developing a production pipeline that allows them to produce products to a broker and get them outside without great expense. After talking to several of you tonight, I've realized that those brokers don't exist here anymore, and you've got to go far away to have the support that you need to get your products out further. I think agritourism is great, but I don't think that produces the kind of sustainable income you need to get from the summer to the winter. And so finding a way to increase your net gross would be helpful. I don't know how we do that yet, but my son has that same problem as area of his small farm. He can produce enough to make money to get him from the summer to the winter on his bills, but then he doesn't have anything to get him from January to July again, right? And so he's going to figure that out. We have groundwater issues. I think the data centers will add to that. We have transmission issues. I think the data centers will add to that. I think at the end of the day, if you focus on agritourism, finding the right production price lines for you guys, and then lowering your taxes, because the cost of land here is exponentially higher than it was when I came here 12 years ago. I think you're suffering from the taxes both from the Board of County Commissioners and at the state level. And we have to have people who are willing to work on that to lower the cost of your land for your production so that goes into your net pocket. And at the end of the day, if we don't do that, we're going to really struggle keeping farmers. My son wants to stay in Calvert and be a teacher. He cannot afford to live here. I don't want him living in my basement until he's 35 years old and I die and he inherits my house. He needs to get out and do that. How do we incentivize kids to stay here, stay on the land, become those 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation farmers? And I just don't see that happening right now. I think part of that's through education, and I think we should invest in education programs that also help us with that. And then one last story. When I met my wife 25 years ago when I went to the family farm, they gave me sweet feed to bring out to the cows. And I didn't know I was being punked by my brother-in-laws. And I brought it out, and the cows attacked me because they were ringing the bell, right? And I've learned over the last 30 years a lot about farming, even though I'm not a farmer. And I'm willing to work with each and every one of you to find the right programs to help them be sustainable here in Calvert County. Thank you.
I believe there's 2 farms. We need to cut the red tape. There's too many restrictions, number of animals you're allowed. There's lot line restrictions, so you're losing a lot of your property to, with the lot line restrictions. The noise, the farms were here first, so the people that build around you should have to deal with it. I would look at all the policies and have roundtable discussions with the farmers. I believe we did that back when I served on the board. I thought that was a good thing. And we can always change text amendments if people want to have different things on their farms, things like that. We just need to allow more usages on preserved land. Preserved land, you're really restricted on what you're allowed to do, so it makes it difficult. Other than just farming it, that's all you can do. And I would change the rule to how many events you're allowed to have on your farms. I don't think we should tell you how many events you're allowed to have on your farm. If you want to have a wedding on your farm, have a wedding on your farm. Thank you.
Less asphalt, more land preservation. When I've gone around to the farm visits, when I've gone to soil conservation dinners, Farm Bureau dinners, you all are an independent bunch. You're an independent bunch that doesn't want government telling you what you need to be doing. And what I would like to see, and I've thought about this for quite some time, I'm not a farmer. We need to set something up where you all come in. When we're considering something that's going to affect your livelihood, your way of living, we need to bring you all in, and we need to get input from you before we make these decisions. I have no business making a decision for you and being a quasi-government that is just going to slow you down, and I don't understand 110% what your needs are. I think we should start engaging our farming community, the backbone of our community, much better than we've done in the past. And that means you having a voice and us listening. You having a voice when we want to put something into place. Make a suggestion to you all and see if it's going to work for you. What are the pitfalls? What are the pluses? What are the minuses? We need to listen to you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to tell you I'm not an expert in agriculture. And I am a quick study there, and I'm an intentional listener, and I really admire the farming community. It seems that despite what gets thrown at you, and an awful lot does, you persevere. Whether it's weather, drought, rising interest rates, tariffs, development pressures, or just getting older, you innovate, you look towards the future, you look towards tomorrow, and you move forward, and I consider that to be impressive. I wanted to shout out to one person that I spoke to in anticipation of coming here to get kind of a sense of what farms were about, and she's Carolyn Trosbach, and she's the ag specialist for the county. She's an amazing young woman. I met her at the farmer's market, and she told me about the future of farming, and she is passionate, and she gives everybody hope that there really and truly is a tomorrow for agriculture in Calvert County. I think that farms, present and future, are going to need to innovate. We need to see agritourism grow. We need to see wineries and breweries and fine flowers and organic products and sheep shearing products, as well as meat, lamb, and goats, and even the oyster restoration and shell recycling. I think that these are some of the terrific innovative approaches that are going to keep farming part of the Calvert landscape. I just wanted to say that preserving the rural character of this community, it's not just important to farmers, of course, it's important to all of us, and it's been a tradition. So let me just close by saying the TDR program has helped to preserve farmland. About 25,000 acres, I understand, but it's an imperfect solution. And I think that $15 million worth of product sales speak for themselves. Thank you.
Yes, so you can only imagine after going through all these people and then back around to say something that's different that people haven't already said. So first of all, we're all people. We're here to care for one another. I had conversations today with people that I wouldn't have had conversations with before. So a large part of it is being where people are and listening to what people are talking about. So once the question was read, one of the first things I thought about was CASE, Curriculum, Agriculture, Science, and Education. Our CTA is one of the best in the state. They do amazing things with our CTA, and they have a curriculum there, and they have the Future Farmers, which is, I think, just for all young ladies right now. And with 2026 being the International Women's Farmers, United Nations International Year of the Women Farmer. So that aligns with what's going on in our schools. I also wrote down the Rural Health Transformation Program. It's a food system because we have a lot of farmers, and wouldn't it be nice if we had a way of everyone coming together and being able to store food together or being able to get it distributed to schools and to other places together instead of everyone doing their own things. Just try to get together so we can do it in a way that we can work together. House Bill 272, the food service licenses. So these are some of the strict restrictions so people can have food tastings and have different events, and so you can redline and actually use your property to actually serve some of the people instead of all the red tape that you have to go through. House Bill 1626, rural urban produce distribution. That kind of goes right back to being able to get the products to the schools and other places in the county instead of traveling all over the place. Thank you.
So I think the bottom line when I think about agriculture and the economy, I think about the farmer as a business owner. That's got to be the focus. The farmer has to make money, or you lose your land. You have to sell it. You go out of business. So that needs to be the focus, I believe. As a business owner myself, I can totally identify with that. So in talking to farmers in the last couple of days, I've heard them talk about the soil conservation district programs and how important they are to them for their economic sustainability and so forth. Equipment rental programs, all those types of things. So I think those need to be supported, absolutely, to ensure that. But I also think, in addition to what Antoine is correct, it's hard to not repeat some of what people are saying, that the ag tourism, I think, is extremely important and really can be, if we take away some of the red tape in this county and really allow people to do more with their land, make decisions that make sense, that can make them money, have farmers be able to do what they want to do and serve the community while making a living, actually making a living. So that is certainly very important. And then I would also say buying local. I buy my grass-fed beef from Jimmy Dow and Jennifer Dow, if you know them, Paris Farm. It's amazing. But I do have to go to their farm once a month to pick it up. So you put in your order, and you're gonna come once a month. So I'd really like to see aggregation centers, food hubs, all over the place. It'd be wonderful if we could have many, many throughout the county to where it's very easy to support the local farmers and make you very profitable. Because at the end of the day, you save the farmer, you save the farm. Thank you.
Thank you. So with Calvert County being, it was traditionally tobacco. When tobacco buyout came, a lot of your farmers sold out and they bought all this equipment to go grain farming. Whether it be grain drills, the no-till farming took over Calvert County. So I can hear Sambo Swan telling a story. He said we wore out a lot of steel and burned a lot of diesel fuel for nothing. So Sambo, they transitioned their farm to a produce farm. And it went from a produce farm that was selling bulk, and now Joe Sam focuses more on local tourism and local people you pick, that type of thing. We still sell some wholesale. So you got Swan Farms that does that, you've got Jake's that does that, and you also have Frederick that do that. And the county has had the opportunity to support all of them and do ribbon cuttings and promote them through economic development. As far as our youth go and who we have coming up, we actually have the CTA teacher in the back for the CASE program. And she's also the FFA, Future Farmers of America, coordinator for the county. We also have 4-H in the county, which focuses on livestock program. But you know, not every kid in the county has a farm to be able to raise an animal. So we actually work with CTA, we work with Parks and Rec, we work with DNR, and we're in the process now of actually finding a location. And well, we've identified a location, but we're working on that location so that some of these kids that don't have the opportunity to raise livestock and maybe get involved in agriculture programs will have a place to do that. We need to continue, again, with our children and their focus, and 4-H is a great program that promotes that. If you come to the fair, you'll see the livestock barn, you'll see the Maryland Ag Trailer, and those kids, they're a good group of kids. And they're our future. They're our future for Calvert County, and hopefully they're our future for some farms here in Calvert. Thank you.
So in order to help preserve farming, we need to make it cool again, okay? Why do most of us drive a Ford pickup truck? Because when I was growing up, the biggest thing out there was the Ford Bigfoot monster truck, right? That's why I drive a Ford. Why do I have a New Holland tractor, right? Because my grandfather had a Ford back then. But we need to bring this stuff back. In the town of Lower Marlboro, and I'm a big player in this, we do the best Halloween party ever. And I do the hay wagon ride, the haunted thing, the ride. And I use that big giant tractor to pull that little wagon. And kids leave there every year thinking that's the coolest tractor ever. And that's the little spark that'll get these kids interested in it. And then what we need to try to bring the 4-H program. I went through the 4-H program. We need to try and get that program back at the school level. You know, that would be fantastic. The other thing is, how many of you guys have been told no by the county? You've been told no on an idea you have for your farm, been told no on something you want to build at your farm. What we have to do, we have to become the county of yes. The county of yes, and we need the government to get out of the way, okay? The other thing I would like to see happen is, look, not everybody, look, I love Joe Sam. He's doing a pretty cool thing up there at Swan Farms with the pick your own, but not everybody is built for that. Me, I just want to drive a combine, you know, and pick corn, you know, that's kind of my thing. So we need to relax the regs that will allow you, let's face it, a lot of us need a little bit of a side hustle on our farm. If you want to have a little bit of a, you know, you got to do construction a little bit to make ends meet on your farm, and you want a grain farm, I think you should be able to do that. So I think we relax some of these regs for the farmers, let it get back to you can do what you want on your farm. That will help.
Okay, so a lot's been said. Don't want to repeat anything. I can't tell a farmer what they want or what they need. I want the farmer to tell me what they want and what they need. You know, they say that, you know, you can't, if you're not in someone else's shoes, you don't know what they're going through. So I'm not a farmer right now. Yes, I grew up on a farm. However, I want to know what the farmers need. What do you want? Do you like the programs that we have in place? Are they, I mean, they're good, but are they great? So these are discussions that we need to have. We need to have discussions where we sit down as a group, whether it's economic development, the Board of County Commissioners, and the farmers. Find out exactly what would help you with your farms. Is it tax incentives? All of those things. So mine just goes back to we need to sit down, have a conversation, and I want to hear personally what the farmers need to do better and to have better.
So the most important thing for agriculture in Calvert County is to preserve our farmland. So far we've preserved about 33,000 acres. We have a goal of 40,000 acres. And once you preserve that land, it can never be changed, can never be used for anything else, so that we guarantee that we have a land base for anybody that does want to farm. Because as was mentioned, when we that have been here for a long time grew up, this was all tobacco. And when the tobacco business went away in the 90s and 2000s, people started transitioning. They started doing buy local, they started doing agritourism, all those kind of things that you have to do, because it's hard to farm. You fight the weather, you fight insects, you fight markets, you fight so many different things. It's really, really hard business. And it's important that we have organizations like Farm Bureau that represent the farmers in the county so that they come forward and they voice their concerns and their opinions and the things that they want to see and the things that they need to make sure that they can survive and be profitable. Because that's the key at the end of the day, is keep them profitable. I think that, when we talk about TDRs, a lot of people don't understand the TDR program, but we've done some math, and it's cheaper for us as county government to buy those TDRs and retire them than it is to allow those TDRs to be used in homes. In the long run, it's much cheaper, because that open farmland doesn't cost us any infrastructure needs, it doesn't crowd our schools, it doesn't create trash or concerns for public safety. At the end of the day, it's the best money we can spend is to buy TDRs. That's why we keep a reserve fund at all times, to make sure whenever somebody wants to come forward and sell their TDRs, we have the money available to buy those TDRs. In 1980, when that program started, it was nationally recognized as the best land preservation program in this entire country. And it's still surviving and working today, as long as the funding's there and the program's open for our farmers to get into. Thank you.
Thank you all for those responses, and actually you stuck within the time frame. I'm very pleased with each and every one of you right now, so very good. So we're going to round 2 question. This is also 2 minutes each. And we'll continue down the line. We'll start this time with District 2 candidates. And in a moment, Mr. Kenneth Lee will begin. The question for this round, and some of you touched on it in the first question, but here's the question. What is your understanding of the current status of the Transferred Development Rights, or TDR, program? And do you support reopening or reforming it? What specific changes, if any, would you prioritize? Now read that again, okay? What is your understanding of the current status of the TDR, or Transfer Development Rights program? And do you support reopening or reforming it? And what specific changes, if any, would you prioritize? So Mr. Lee, you'll begin.
Okay, well, with the TDR program, from what I understand, it's put into place to preserve the farmlands, or to confirm that preserve the land, period. I think that it needs to stay active. I think that the cost should be a little better for the farmers to be able to get a little more money on this, because like Buddy was saying, once these are put into the program and these are retired, I think that it'll help everybody out a little more with raising the prices of them, and it still saves the county money by doing so. So that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I'm not a professional farmer, so I don't know all the answers to it, but I would definitely be open to hear what anybody has to say about it. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I do agree that we need to reopen the TDR program. One thing we did do, we increased the TDRs to 5 per unit. So that's one thing we did as a board. Also, we need to keep on placing money into land preservation. And one way we did it was the ag transfer tax revenue goes into the land preservation budget. That's a lot of money that's going into that budget for land preservation. So that's a good thing there. The other thing, we need to keep on increasing the prices on TDRs compared to the retirees of the TDR program. So, they range from, $2,000, they went to $6,320, people's holding on for their retirement. So we need to have a clear way of what people is going to expect when they put them in for retirement and for redevelopment. Thank you.
Thanks. I think we're not going to hear a lot of differentiation here. I think we all think TDRs are a good thing. I think I'm interested in the process and how we improve that process for the farmers to make it faster and quicker and for the applications to get through as quickly as possible. I think the APD process needs to be reformed a little bit. I also think we need to look at the cost of the TDRs and increase the value of the TDRs so it's more money in your pockets longer. I don't have a lot to say on it. I think you're going to hear a lot of the same kind of thing across the board here. So, thank you.
So I believe when I was in 4 years ago, for the last term, the TDRs were around $2,500 a piece. I believe that's what they were, and they're now up to about $6,300. I remember back in the day when they were around $9,000. So I think right now I don't believe a lot of people are selling them. So I don't know if people are waiting for the prices to go up or what the reasoning is before that. But I know once a year the commissioners revisit the TDR program, and they vote on whether they're going to raise the price of the TDRs or keep them at the same level they are. So I agree with Buddy. We need to keep the program to where people can continue where the county can buy the TDRs back. So I think we need to just get together with the farming community and find out what it is that they want to keep this TDR program alive. Thank you.
I agree that we should keep the TDR program. The TDR program and the agricultural preservation program are probably our two best programs for preserving land. In 1978, when we decided we were going to preserve 20,000 acres of land, we accomplished that in 19 years. And 29 years, let me back up, I'm sorry, once we accomplished 20,000 acres, we went with 40,000 as our next goal. We're up to 32,600 in 29 years. Maybe it's time to bring you all in to help us know what are fair prices for TDRs, what we need to do in order to preserve more land, because we have got to preserve more land and have less asphalt. Thank you.
Well, I had to do some quick study to find out exactly what TDRs, how they worked. I remember back some years ago when I was a news reporter here about the use of it, the sort of development of it, and I think it has served the community well. 285 farms exist today, according to the census information. But if the goal is truly to preserve open space and agricultural preservation and to keep farms in business, I don't know how that comports then with elected officials who then support a data center, which is the complete opposite to what you need to have open space, clean air, water, and all those wonderful environmental things that so many of us take for granted. The two don't seem compatible. If you want to have farmland in this community, don't bring data centers here. And yes, I do think that these should go up in value. I do believe people are holding them, but you got to pick a side here. It doesn't work together. Thank you.
Well, to answer the question, I do agree because everyone else said the same thing. Believe it or not, I've actually had conversations with Buddy. A lot of our conversations take place on Saturday evening, but the brother always calls me back whenever I have conversations with him, and he's usually been pretty straight up with me. So to understand the TDRs, I've learned a lot over these past couple of weeks about what's going on in all these TDRs and PDRs and all this other stuff. That's one thing I will say I will learn. I will learn exactly what's going on and try to make the best decision according to my conscience and everything else. So with the TDR program, as far as preserving land, like I did research and see that 32,000 was trying to get 40,000, and there's $10 million in the budget for FY 2026 to do that. And I do remember that there's been conversations of trying to get people to get into it. If it was more money back in the day, you know, maybe that's what people are waiting for. But I do support the program, and if there's an opportunity to get more money for it, to preserve more land, I do support us trying to do that. Thank you.
So I'm familiar with TDRs from selling real estate in the county for many years, but I really, had to do some research to see what, more information about TDRs when it came to, farming and farm preservation. So what I looked at was not only the TDR bank, which I think Buddy was talking about, as far as the county purchasing TDRs to really stabilize the market, which I think is wonderful. We'll definitely support that. But there are other alternatives that could be possibly implemented with the input of our local farmers. Some of the other parts of the country are doing some innovative things when it comes to TDRs, like time-limited TDRs, where it is not, I see you're nodding your head. I think it's I don't know whether that's something that farmers would want, but maybe it's something to look at and to where your rights aren't permanently taken, where you're giving those up. There's a 20, 30 years, something like that. There's also other options like TDRs paired with direct incentives. That's another option. And then things like revenue generating approach when it came to TDRs. So where it's not just a one-time, one and done shot. That could really be maybe beneficial to some of the local farmers. So I'm open to really having lots of discussions from local farmers and what would work and what wouldn't. But I think that's the best approach, is really to get the most input from those that are directly affected. Thank you so much.
So I guess we're going to look at the APD program. Something I'd like to see is us actually look at the acreage on those and prorate your acreage for a large acreage versus a smaller acreage to see. We're getting a lot more value out of that larger acreage being preserved than the smaller acreage. There's several different programs out here too, rather than just focus on the TDR program, which that was a question, but there's also the MALF program and Rural Legacy program. And we also have the opportunity to work with several of the land trusts throughout the county that they benefit us and we benefit them. They identify a piece of property, whether they buy it through Rural Legacy or what, but a lot of times if they buy it through a program and they get the property right, they can actually make money off of that, and they've preserved it. And they've cut the lot size down as to what it could have been if it was actually developed fully. The 40,000 acres we keep talking about, Greg Bone was a huge proponent of that, and he actually passed away just after we voted for the changes in the zoning ordinance. Unfortunately, he didn't see his 40,000 acres, but like I said, he was huge with ACLT, and he did a lot of good for our county. So that's all I have on that.
So currently the TDR program is arguably closed. You can't certify new TDRs today. And we can't preserve more farmland if we don't get back to certifying those TDRs. So I would lobby that we reopen this right now. What I do seem to find interesting is that most of the current county commissioners have already said they support reopening. Why is it still closed? That's the question for me. There is not a lot of private market TDRs available today. It would be a good time now to reopen it. Another thing that I do know is there's in the commercial world, okay, the sportsplex in Dunkirk, I had to buy something called forestry conservation TDRs. There really aren't any of those out there right now. Maybe to help us bump up the value of regular TDRs, we could substitute regular TDRs for forestry conservation TDRs. That could add value in the private market. But you know, the purpose of the TDR program is that we compensate the current owner of the farm for its lost value for losing development rights. Okay? If you have a 100-acre farm, you can cut it up into 10 pieces. It's worth a lot of money. If you're going to sell the development rights, we're going to compensate you because you're losing those rights. The purpose of that is so it makes that farm capable of staying a farm through the next generation. When you're ready to retire and you want to transfer this to your son or daughter, you know, you're going to have all the home builders around here coming and trying to buy it because it's worth what it's worth in lots. And we have to get back to certifying TDRs so we can make it worth what it's worth as a farm, but fairly compensate the current owner. Thank you.
So in working for Calvert County government for TDRs the entire time, I kind of know, kind of don't know, so of course I was doing some research. And I am in favor of them. I'm in favor of reopening them. I'm fine with increasing the cost. And I didn't realize this until I was doing some research. Currently, Calvert County has the most active TDR program in the state, which is impressive. So I'm on board with the TDR program, and I would like to know if the farmers want the amount to rise or any other changes that could be made to that.
So as I said, the TDR program started back in the early 80s. When it started out, you know, this county was growing at about 5% a year, and it was a developer-funded program. It worked out really well. Government didn't spend a dime. We preserved all that land because of all the growth that was going on. The issue today is we're growing at about not even 0.5% per year. It's really nothing. And there's no demand for TDRs in the private sector anymore to say. The government's the only one really buying TDRs anymore. So, and I have an announcement to make. Jason Briggs out here. We're supposed to reopen that program in July or August. Been working on that for quite a while. Been working with the community, making sure that we make the right changes as we move forward and get that program back open again. But hopefully it's going to be open this summer because we have some landowners who are very interested in coming back in. But you know, the TDR program, it's pretty simple. You know, Todd mentioned all those other programs that are very available, but they're very complicated and they take a really long time. It takes in the mouth program when I was at the department, it takes over 2 years in a lot of cases to get in the mouth program. You get more money, but it takes 2 years. And in the county program, we do a cycle once a year. So at least once a year, you can sell into the PAR program where we retire them, or you can sell into the bank just about any time you want. And of course, farmers want more money. It's never enough money for TDRs. But the reason they got to $9,000 was because developers were fighting over it during the 80s and 90s. They couldn't get enough. And a lot of problems were created during that time because the developers complained there weren't enough TDRs, and the county made mistakes. They allowed you to sell TDRs off of unbuildable lots. In the ranch club, as we all know, there are a lot of unbuildable lots. They allowed those developers to use TDRs off of those lots. That was a big mistake. And over the years, we've changed the program, made changes to make it more effective and efficient, and we're doing that again. And we're going to get that thing open this summer, so thank you very much.
You ready?
Yep.
So, obviously, heading towards the end of the line, I think on the 15 of us that are up here, and even the 2 that are not here, I think you're all going to see that we support the program. You know, there's a couple of things that I want to be able to add to the conversation. You know, other rural communities in the United States are facing takeovers from organizations that are made of unlimited money. I'm talking, you know, Chinese agriculture firms, high-density developers, and multinational big tech firms looking to build data centers. And so if there's a way that we can look at leveraging TDRs as a way to try and make it more valuable for a rural landowner to keep it rural instead of selling out, their rights for development of these large-scale industries. That would be something I would want to look towards. And also, as the state looks to encourage accessory dwelling units, ADUs, throughout the state, there's a requirement that counties clarify some of their ADU rules by, I think it's October. Just making sure that those ADUs are exempted from the residents, are classified separately from the residents in the ADU determinations, because I think it allows us to grow a little bit more than 0.5% without penalizing our farmers who decide to go that route, let's say their garages, etc.
Just having a successful TDR program tells you how rural we really are. TDR program has been a double-edged sword. It preserved land, a lot of land, but it created a monster of high-density housing. Just look at Prince Frederick. So I would recommend that we have a right of first refusal. I don't know if we have it right now. But rather than having developers purchase the TDRs for high-density housing, if the money's available in the county, then we should buy them and then retire them permanently. Now, I also understand that the TDR program is a voluntary tool for preserving farmland, and I support strengthening and expanding it so farmers have real economic incentives to keep land in agriculture rather than selling it for development. I also believe that there should be a broader strategy that includes the clean reset on data center zoning. We can't let industrial sprawl undermine the very land that we're trying to preserve. Thank you.
Well, as I said in my earlier comment, TDRs are extremely valuable, but the challenge they are finding is we're a small county, and eventually we are going to run out of commercial opportunities for TDRs. And as it was said, it is much more efficient. If we have to buy those TDRs, then we buy those TDRs. And I can say this over and over and over again. It's just like dominoes fall. Once that building starts, that development starts, everything that comes with it, I can say this over and over and over again, it is much cheaper. It's a one-time buy. But you got to make sure that program's strong. You got to make sure that there's a market for it. If you're the landowner and that price isn't there, you're not gonna move on it. And in time, we always say it only takes 3. And one day that program could get some stress on it, and they could say, you know what, let's open it up to more commercial development. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see county government take control of that. If the day ever comes to where we make sure we preserve that rural character and working with the landowners and the farmers that have that, what is the right price? What is it that's going to make sure that we keep this county rural for generations, not just the upcoming future, but for generations, so that they know when they're looking at generational folks that have been here. It's funny because you'll hear people say, I don't know if my tongue, I've been here 20 years. People that have been here forever, they laugh. They've been here for generations. They think generationally. They want to make sure that that property is going to be there for generations, and that farm program is strong enough that they know the day comes, they got to use it, that it's there. And that, I think, will ensure that we're not reliant on some type of huge commercial type facility to have to make sure those programs are viable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. Now we're going to transition to audience questions. And again, keep in mind that this is an ag forum. We will put priority to questions related to ag. If we have time after that, we will address other questions unrelated to agriculture. If we do not get to your question tonight that's not ag-related, keep in mind that there are a number of forums coming up before the primary by various organizations, and you might have that opportunity to hear the responses at that point, or just approach the candidates after the forum tonight and ask their opinion on whatever your questions are. Kathy, put 2 minutes on. Yeah, you got it. Wait a minute. Don't hit the button yet. Yeah. When I went to college, I took a course in anatomy, and I discovered that the gluteus maximus only could withstand so much of a hard chair. So we're going to give you 2 minutes. You can stretch, okay? But make sure you, when that red sign goes up, you sit down, okay? Go ahead, hit the button.
I need a heater. It's colder.
We'll start again now with the audience questions. And a reminder, if you do have any questions, you can still submit. We'll try to get those in. Okay, if we could have your attention, please, so we can focus on the candidates. Thank you. And we will start this round with District 3. Okay, so here's the question. What can be done? Oh, before I say that, if with any of these questions you want to pass, you're welcome to say I pass on it. But, you have that option, okay, with any of these questions. So, what can be done to help preserve and restore our deteriorating historic tobacco barns which dot our landscape? I'll repeat that question. What can be done to help preserve and restore our deteriorating historic tobacco barns which dot our landscape?
Right. So this is a tough one. I do have a degree in historic preservation, and I think if the goal is to preserve these for the community, then we need incentives from the community to pay for that preservation. And so the people who own them need to be incentivized to maintain them and to keep them in good condition. They are historic. They go back to our tobacco farming roots here in the county, and there's a great value in making sure that they're maintained and preserved. Otherwise, as you drive around the county, we all see this, they're collapsing all over the county. So we need to find ways to pay for that, and that can happen from state level incentives or county level incentives. And the question is, where do we find that money and how do we fund it? I do think it's incredibly important for our heritage, and I think they offer a lot of value to the community, but it's going to be really hard to find that money when everything else is competing for those tax dollars. But I do think it's something that the county should set money aside for, or to find tax incentives for the owners of those above what's already offered to maintain and repair them on a regular basis. Otherwise, they're going to collapse like we've seen. I live up in the northern part of the county, but as you drive through the area there, you're seeing them collapse. Right off of 260, there's one that just recently collapsed, and it was a very large one. It was beautiful. And then the development that's taking place along Harmony Road, we had 3 along there when we moved here 12 years ago. They're all gone. So I think we have to find a way to preserve these. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question because they're on private property. So I don't know how you would use taxpayer dollars to pay for that. So I would think more on the lines of trying to get some type of grants from the state or get our delegates to advocate on the state level to try to find some type of funding to keep them intact. Thank you.
I don't know the answer to this either. I would really have to talk to you all to find out what is the need, what need do you see within the community to preserve these barns? And then, as former commissioner said, grant money would probably be the best way to go. You would not want to use taxpayer dollars on that. So I think it would be up to you. I would go to you all and find out where the need is, what you want, and then take it from there. Also, one thing that we do have in the county, which you see all over the place, is the quilt barns. And they are so nice, and that is going to really add to our community. I don't know if we've started it yet, but there is a move to have enough of them, which it could become a tourist attraction, and you could have a list of the quilts, what they represent, and you could go on a quilt trail. So I think there is room for improvement here, but it definitely would be up to you all.
Thank you. Part of my work experience was 23 years that I spent with the Fairfax County Park Authority, and we were the largest landholder in that community, and many of our holdings included historic buildings. So what we found worked most effectively was to tell the story, to build value, to make it important to the community. And I think once people understand why this is a part of our heritage, why it's important, those grant dollars we found, they flowed. Also, there were opportunities for people to, for communities to adopt some of these old barns and things that were in our area too. Some we were able to reuse for recreational use. Others were simply restored for their historic values. So I think it's an interesting challenge, and I think it's one we better handle quickly, or there won't be any to save. Thank you.
Great question. I'd like to find out the answer to that myself, because we have 4 barns on our property that aren't really being used right now. But I do remember while researching for this, I thought I ran across something that there's a property tax credit for barns that people have on their properties. I'm not exactly sure where I found that. Okay, thanks, buddy. Okay, so I knew that there's something there, and possibly with that, if we are able to restore some of these barns and find out some of the farms who may need to have other space. And once again, as far as if I have 4 barns and I'm not really using them, and there's some sort of tax credit or some sort of grant or some way of restoring that barn, and there's someone else who may need to store equipment in it or store some of their produce in it or something like that. It's one of those community things. If I have something and a need that someone else needs, and I can satisfy that need, why not be able to do that? So I definitely would be interested. And also with our barns, I remember climbing those barns and hanging tobacco in some of those barns. So there are definitely memories there, and I would love to be able to preserve our barns and find ways to do that. So that would be my reasoning for wanting to do that. So that was definitely a great question. I'm looking forward to possibly tackling that. Thank you.
So I grew up in Clinton next to the Miller Farm. It was a huge farm with lots of tobacco barns. They are beautiful, majestic. So it's a really interesting question. That's a difficult question. And what I think to myself, my daughter has a tobacco barn on her property in Owings, and the former owner converted it for vehicles. So it poured concrete and had a bunch of cars stored in there. She now uses it as a basketball court for her kids, indoor, which is awesome. The Dunkirk Animal Hospital owners, the Schmeisers, they have a big tobacco barn they converted to a pitching lanes for their daughters that played softball here in the county and then in college. So pitching lanes and all of the batting cages inside. So I think there are some real opportunity for some of these barns, if they're not too far gone, to be converted into whether it's sports facilities like I'm talking about, or possibly lots of other, or cars, other types of maybe even businesses. So perhaps we could get really creative and have some SBA funds used, or grant money, SBA grant money, or loans, and convert some of those historic barns into something that could be used in a business and actually make money from it. So not an easy answer, but I think we could be creative and have some way to preserve some of them by doing some of that. Thank you.
So about, I guess, 2 years ago, tax bills went out, and I had some old retired tobacco farmers reach out to me and said, "Todd, where in the world is our tax credit out on this tax bill?" And I said, "I don't know, but I'll look into it." So a little bit of research, and our previous treasurer, for whatever reason, it disappeared off of the tax bills. A little bit more research revealed the reason it was taken off of the tax bill was because people were trying to claim their she sheds as tobacco barn tax credits. There was actually one instance where a person lived in their barn with their horses, and it was their residence, and they were actually trying to write it off on that. So we had to go back to the drawing board. My previous county attorney and myself went and met with a couple of the farmers. We actually got a hold of the St. Mary's County tax bill. We rewrote it. We tried to get it through Annapolis last year. It didn't go. This year it did go through. But unfortunately, we won't see it on the tax bills until next year. Is that enough to rebuild these barns? No. Does it take a little bit of sting out every year when they pay to have it painted or do a little bit of maintenance? Yeah, and that's what the farmers were saying. Look, you know, it's going to help us a little bit. It's not going to replace our barns. We actually had 3 big barns on our property, and 1 burned and 2 went down in storms. I remember the one night we came home, it was a terrible storm, and the barn was laying in the middle of the driveway, and the next morning we had to have John Wood come with an excavator to get it out. So I saw Mr. Bowen's farm on Stokely Road recently when I went down there. That just went down in a bad storm. So it is very sad to see these barns go down, but the tax credit in and of itself is not enough to do this, and we can always do better with trying to help preserve our tobacco barns. Thank you.
So I think this question was for me. I have a lot of experience in this. I own the Flag Barn on northbound 4 up towards Dunkirk by Kelly Generator. I know it's expensive, but you know, I think I have $60,000 in re-siding that barn, but I made it weatherproof effectively forever. I took the siding off of it, I metal clad it, so it's really built just like a pole barn. And then I put the wood on the outside of it, so it looks like a traditional tobacco barn. So what we have to do is really, I'm definitely not a fan of tax dollars paying to rehab somebody's barn. But I am a firm believer in using the tax code to incentivize certain things that we as a community want. So if you want to turn your tobacco barn into a pole barn, okay, and you're going to put metal siding on it, maybe put the wood back on it to preserve the look, then maybe we give you the same tax rate as if it was agriculture. But you've got 5 of your hot rods in it, or you got tractors in it. But I could see using the tax code to incentivize, let you continue to claim the farm exemption, the farm tax rate on it, but use it for something else. And that's the only way that you will truly preserve something like that, is if you find a good use for it. So, I rent mine to some office people. I'm just kidding. Just want to see if you're paying attention. So anyway, yeah, that's what I would do. Thank you so much.
So I think everybody's pretty much into preserving and restoring these barns, just trying to find a way to do that. That's going to be the difficult thing. I hear grants. I know there's a really good grant writer that possibly could help with that. So, but I would love to see them preserved and restored.
Can I have her leftover time too? Barns are fascinating. I spent a lot of my life in a tobacco barn. Sometimes 120 degrees underneath the tin, and I was young and didn't know any better, and built character. That's what my father told me. And but barns are really cool if you pay attention, because the really old barns were built. Farmers weren't that big back in the day, and they built these small barns based on how much they grew or how much money they had. And over time, they would add sheds. So the barns wouldn't be these little squares; they'd be sheds on all 4 sides, and the roof would curve out. They're really cool. And so we did fight to get the barn tax back, and because they are part of our character. We grew tobacco. Those of you that got here late missed all of that. But barns were everywhere, and they're very expensive to maintain. I have 3 barns left, and like Jason said, I have to re-side them at some point in time, and it's going to cost $20,000 probably a barn to re-side them. Every 3 years I have to get the roofs painted. That's $3,000 now. It's hard, to justify spending tax dollars to preserve our heritage. It takes a commitment from the people that own them. We do have a program where if you have your property in historical preservation, you get a tax credit based on what you spend to keep up. You could look at something like that for barns, but that's still tax dollars. You're letting them write off that expenses off their tax bills, so you're still effectively paying tax bills. But barns are so important to Calvert County in the history. in our culture and where we all came from. But they're not built structurally very sound. The siding really holds them together. I've seen a many a barn. If you take the siding off, it'll blow down in the littlest wind there ever was. So it's important to keep your siding up to date to hold your barn together. But they're just so wonderful, and I spent a lot of time in the barn. It was a wonderful place. Thank you.
Yeah, kind of going back to the grants thing, I used to do grants and appropriations on Capitol Hill, delivered tens of millions, albeit the member I work for is from Texas, but tens of millions to San Antonio, Laredo stretch. So certainly, you know, I can tell you this, I got a lot of energy, I'm 26, and I'm willing to go to Washington and Annapolis myself to take the lead on this, just because I think part of what made me and my parents fall in love with Calvert County is the fact that tobacco barns are still around. There are plenty of places, even where people that we know are retiring to in North Carolina, South Carolina, they are gone. And so, you know, preservation there is important to me. What I will say, I agree with what Patty mentioned. Allowing the redevelopment of the interior, I think, is incredibly important, and I think also because, you know, it's the aesthetic from the outside that I think so many of us care about. You know, the county government sometimes is the biggest obstacle to people doing things on their own private land. Talking about some of you that may have tried to build pools before. And so, you know, if we're able to fast track any of these changes to the interior of the barn, just to make sure the exterior can stay up and it's repurposed to something anywhere from a CAFO to an ADU to batting cages and a sportsplex. You know, just making sure we're able to do that quickly and efficiently, because those exteriors are not getting any younger.
Good to go. From my understanding, barns are under private ownership on private land. I'm not sure this is a government function to be preserving these barns. However, perhaps farmers who have these barns could have them listed on historical society sites and then submit for grants to have them done. Just thinking outside the box here. Also, another possibility is maybe to subdivide the land, just the lot, the land where the barn sits on, and sell it to, and transfer ownership to an organization or the people who may want to rebuild the barn for it and use it for other activities such as weddings or those kind of things. But I'm just thinking outside the box, but really I don't know what else there is.
So as was said, the tax credit helps, but it's not a fix-all. And as has been said before too, expanding the use, but expanding the use and not losing your tax credit and not your historic. Because that's the thing too, when you change the usage, all of a sudden you don't qualify for these things anymore. And that's what gets lost in translation. So you have to be able to expand accepted uses for a lot of these things and a lot of these programs so that they can make them at least try to pay for themselves again. And like it's been said by many people up here, all the different things, there aren't many places for get-togethers or even sports things or what have you, but to expand those uses and not penalize the landowner for doing so as well.
Well, I don't have too much of a difference on the barns that these guys do. But what I do say is there has to be some type of grant to get the materials for these barns. And like maybe the Historical Society could help with the preservation of it. And what about this good old neighborly help from each other? I mean, we all own barns. How did they get there in the first place? It wasn't one person that put them up. It was the community that helped. I think as a community, we ought to get back to that same thing and start putting these barns back together because they are beautiful. And a lot of them can be converted over to have events inside of them. I mean, let's make money off of them instead of just having them fall down to the ground. That's my thoughts on it. Thank you.
So, how many of you all have been in a stripping room? Very good. Many of these old barns have hydrants in it, has presses in it. Our forefathers hauled tobacco to Coxtown. Okay, Jason Coxtown, Lone Barber, was changed.
and they rowed the Hodges down to the steamships. Wouldn't it be a wonderful idea to get our youth involved in learning the Calvert County history of these farms, of how tobacco even paid for additions on our churches, our steeples, our bells throughout the Calvert County history of this. But as you all know, our state is $3 billion in the deficit, so I don't know where we can get the grants. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. You all are so efficient that you also answered another question in this round that stated previously those in the Ag Preservation Program received credits for tobacco barns. 2 years ago, those credits were eliminated. Why was that done? Can they be brought back? So, very good. You're efficient. Okay, I think what we'll do for this next round, we'll put a minute on the clock and give you that time. So this question says, how can the county's ag preservation program be reformed to allow permitting additional family conveyance lots, helping to keep younger family members on working farms, ensuring long-term viability of agriculture? Let me read that again. How can the county's ag preservation program be reformed to allow permitting additional family conveyance lots, helping to keep younger family members on working farms, ensuring the long-term viability of agriculture? And we'll start with the at-large folks.
Now that's an interesting question. And I'm trying to decide if I should wing it, because honestly I don't exactly know the answer, or if I should cede my time to the next candidate as a gesture of goodwill. And I think I'm going to accept, I would just say this much about it, that accessory dwelling units, wherever they are, on farmland or wherever, are critical in this community. So anything you can do to keep family together, to have family compounds, if you will, I think that's the future, that's a necessity. But I'll let the next expert give you more.
Oh, you don't know me. It is definitely a great question. I was able to build my house, and a few of my cousins were able to build our homes on our family land. We were able to use the land as collateral to build houses. And I was actually, since I had to do a lot of this research, I was looking at ADUs, and they were talking about that because a lot of farmers, they had help, or they have seasonal workers, or they have family members, and living in Calvert County is very, very expensive. So I think ADUs may be an opportunity to be able to have little Charlie and other people build houses right on your family farm. And then they were talking about the footage. First it was 1,200 square feet, now it's 1,500 square feet. And it goes by the amount of property that you have, and if you have city, or if you have your well. So there are a lot of opportunities there for that. So I think ADUs may, okay, I forgot it was 1 minute. But thank you.
So the question as far as the ADUs, I've built an ADU once before, and that was back when it used to only be 900 square feet was the maximum, so that's really a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. I was very happy to see that change occurred, that now we can build 1,500 square feet. So a 3-bedroom, 2 bath, a nice size home for somebody to live, whether it's on your property, which is, that's the whole point. Also, I think the question, if I'm not mistaken, also talked about lots. I just put a property under contract for a client of mine that wanted a family compound, and that is something that we're seeing a trend towards. There's more and more demand out there, I can tell you, in real estate for family compounds. So that's a zoning issue, really. Sounds like at the end of the day that we can make some changes and be a lot more flexible to help keep our kids in the county, make it more affordable.
For the benefit of the audience, let them know what an ADU is, what the acronym stands for.
Oh, I'm sorry. So an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit.
So I'm very fortunate to live on a family farm compound. During the zoning ordinance update, we went back and forth, tenant house versus ADU. Tenant houses back in the day, I'm gonna go back to tobacco farming. That's why we had tenants. I mean, tobacco took a lot of people, a lot of work. There was tenant agreements. We actually had several tenant houses on our farm. My uncle had several tenant houses on his farm right next door. But the remnants of them are still there today. We also talked about family conveyances while we were doing that update. And it went back and forth again with the tenant house with, okay, how much of farming practices actually changed in the county? How many farmers actually require tenants to farm? Thus the ADU prevailed out of the tenant side of things. And the square footage went back and forth as well. Again, there was a lot of citizen feedback on that during the zoning ordinance update. Thank you.
So you have to be careful with the family conveyance system because it's abused very often. You start out with a family conveyance lot, and then if you buy 5 TDRs, you can pull it out of it, and then you sell it to somebody else. So I've never been a real big fan of that. I would draw the line at cutting out a separate lot. The 1,500 square foot accessory dwelling, that I'm fine with. Also, depending on the program you're in, the Ag Pres program, you could buy TDRs to pull a lot back out. The purpose is to preserve farmland. So I don't really like the idea of creating more lots 10 years later if you sold too many TDRs off the property. So, thank you.
I'm not even going to pretend that I have the answer for this one. I'm going to have to research it and get back with that. But I do know that the state is, I think, trying to put some regulations in place for these ADUs. So that's going to play an important role in that. And I hope that the county can stop that from happening. I'm sure that it will. But I don't have a great answer, so I'm not going to give you a great answer. I'll just do some more research and get back.
Well, a minute is not enough for this. The state has actually authorized ADUs. We really can't control them, to be honest. They can go anywhere they want. The issue with this is, look, I'm all about family. My farm is not permanently preserved because my grandkids might want to build a house on that farm, and I don't want to lock it down so they can't. This is a big issue because we are certainly all about families being together on farms, but then you get into density discussions. How many kids get to build a house? I know a man in Huntington lost his whole farm through divorces. 2 sons, each one of them got married 3 times. Every time they got divorced, the house got cut out and sold. He lost his entire farm through divorce. So that's the issue with the children's lots. And are they really for children, as was mentioned? They come in and say it's for my child, but then all of a sudden it's not. And they're just selling off a lot. So it's really tough. I want my family on my farm, that's why it's not preserved. It's just a tough issue.
So first, as the young guy up here, whoever asked this question, sincerely thank you, because as I mentioned in the intro, being able to afford to be a first-time homeowner is nearly impossible in this county. Now, I hear the concern about ADUs, and I think there's a way that we can do it responsibly. I do think at the end of the day, when we're put in this dilemma of, the only housing that someone can get for the first time being townhomes and high density, that ADUs are the way out and a way to preserve our rural heritage. And so, I hear your concerns, buddy, when it comes to, when it comes to how do we make sure that it doesn't just turn into an excuse for a developer to swoop in or for mismanagement that makes it look like a development. I don't have the answers to that right now, but I think us as Calvert County, we've taken the lead so many times as a model rural community, and I think this is another opportunity for us to step up and make some more economical options for young people.
I have to be forthright with you. I don't know. But I'm willing to work with the farmers to find a solution.
So me and Commissioner Hans have had many respectful conversations on this one. He knows I'm a big family conveyance person. Brings up a lot of valid points. We talk divorces, everything like that. But I do believe at some point, for me to try to regulate you is an overreach. And I mean that respectful to everybody, but what I mean is with that is because Commissioner Hanson's right. Persons that lost their whole farm. Because to me, you put these rules in. If we're going to change the game a little bit, you put the rules in. It has to stay family. There has to be restrictions on how much property can be used. We don't want to take 100 acres and all of a sudden put 100 homes on it because that could defeat the whole purpose of what we were doing. But because of the pressure these days, and especially with farmers trying to keep their kids into it, their families into it, the ability to be able to stay there, raise their family there, I think will provide more opportunities to keep that going longer. And I'm a big family conveyance fan.
I too am a big family conveyance fan. I have a small piece of property compared to most of you guys, but it is enough for all three of my children, and that was the reason that I purchased this property, was to be able to have a home for myself and my three children to stay on this property. But I do agree that there does need to be rules and regulations put into effect for this, so it doesn't happen like with the divorce situation, which it's very possible. But it has to be stipulated somewhere in there that once the children leave, the house does not get split up, that the property does not get broken down into more homes to be able to sell. It shouldn't be a tool to make money on. It should be a tool to keep families together. That's my thought on it.
So this program started off very unique because it was for families. But what happened is that the families did this family conveyance lots, and then they said, well, we can sell this and move over here into a larger home. That's the reason we need to put stipulations on these lots. And if it's sold within a certain time period, they need to pay back what was given to them through the county. Thank you.
So Maryland House Bill 1466, when it's paired with Senate Bill 891, is going to require all counties, including Calvert, to establish pro-ADU policies by October 1st, 2026. FYI. So that's going to be a problem. And so first and foremost, I am not here to tell people what to do with their property, and I want less government doing that. And I think we should all feel that less government involved in this is probably a good thing. If you want ADUs, we should have some general guidelines that the community comes up with that we establish, that we stick to. But I really don't want the government telling me what to do with my property, and I've seen that more and more across the state, whether it's in Baltimore in the city or down in Calvert. I want to make sure we retain as much ownership and oversight on our own properties as we possibly can. If you want to build an ADU and it meets certain requirements, fine. If your family decides to sell later, why is that government business? At the end of the day, I don't think it should be government business. So that's where I stand.
I would love to have a farm and build a house for each one of my kids, but that's a dream that's been long gone. But if I'm not mistaken, when you take a farm and you subdivide it, you still have to create 50% of that to open space. But there's too many state laws. Even if you want to build an in-law apartment, the state now makes you upgrade your septic system to a nitrogen system when you already have a perfectly good system. So all these state regulations are controlling everything. It's costing everybody too much money. I know that in my previous term, many people wanted to build a pool or an addition or whatever in their backyard, but they had to be 30 foot from their well. Our board was able to get that reduced to 20 foot, allowing a lot more people to be able to have a pool or an addition or things that they want to do. But that's it. Thank you.
I'm for family conveyance. I don't know what all the stipulations would be. I've never come up against this in my life, but like I've stated before, I would want your input. I would want to hear some scenarios. I would want to hear some suggestions as to what you've seen before, some pitfalls, how we could improve upon this. Because my bottom line is that I work for you. And you tell me what you want. You need a seat at the table, and that's what I want to see the farm community have, is a seat at the table to determine their destiny. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We have a few more questions, but we're getting close to our closing time, and I want to be respectful of your time. This is a work night, work week night, so what we'll do at this point is have our closing statements. Candidates, you have 90 seconds for closing statements, and this time we will start in reverse order. Mrs. Grosso will begin, and then we'll come down the line.
I want to thank you all for having me here this evening. And I just would like to reiterate, if you know anything about me, you know that I'm a fighter. You know that I fight for my constituents. I want to hear from you, the good, the bad. I want to know when you feel I've messed up, because when I know that, that's when I can improve. I want the farming community. The farming community is the backbone of this county and the backbone of the United States of America. And anything that we do going forward that has an impact on the farming community, you need to have a seat at the table. And I do promise you, and there's constituents out there that know I keep my promises, you will have a seat at the table. My battle cry is going to be less asphalt, more ag preservation. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'd like the opportunity to serve my community again. I like Marty's article. My name's been on the ballot for the last 20 years for every single election. I've won, I've lost, I don't give up. I'm not going to give up on you guys. And I'd like the opportunity to serve again. And there's a lot of things that I'd like to change, including, like I said, I want to lower the taxes back down to where they should be. People are struggling out here now. Businesses are struggling. I want to work with the business community, the farming community. I want to continue to support our Board of Education and continue the work that I started. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Farm Bureau for the invite tonight to come out and talk to everybody. I'd like to thank everybody here at the table for your perspectives and views. I think it's important that you see that we actually can all get along and we actually have a lot in common. For me, it's about accountability, transparency, and integrity. And I think that one of the things we need to think about moving forward is how we bring that back to Calvert County government, so that when we are making decisions, you can see it, it's visible, and you understand why we're making the decisions that we're making. I'm not a big government kind of guy. I'd like to see less government. I spent 30 years working for the government, and I think when government gets too involved, you see the kind of situation that we have today with data centers. For me, no data centers is a real thing. I think they're going to cause grave damage, despite the tax benefits that they do bring to the community. And what I'd like to see is more community conversation around the full disclosure of how they impact all the communities, whether it's north or south. And I think that I've seen a lot of discussion about the LNG plant, tax incentives there. We're losing out on $1.4 billion a year based on that deal. And when you have the wrong people at the table, you get bad deals. When you have the right people at the table, you get good deals. I've managed budgets in the hundreds of millions of dollars in commands as large as 3,500 people in the military. I know about budget, I know about policy, I know about fiscal responsibility, and I think that's what I can bring to Calvert County government. Thank you.
I too want to thank Farm Bureau for putting us on tonight. I want to thank all you for coming out, spending your time tonight with us to learn, to listen. And also I wanted to mention that Farm Bureau did a wonderful job this year in Annapolis because there was over 3,000 bills up there, and they're steady coming down the pike. So they did a really good job on helping the farmers out there this year and all their support. I work hard for Calvert County every day. I listen. I've been here all my life. I'm going to die here. So I'm going to work every day for what's true for Calvert County and what's good for our citizens. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming here this evening. I've learned a lot myself from you all. I've taken many notes. I still got a little more to learn here, but my personal opinion on these data centers is I say they're a no. I mean, they're environmental hazard, they're human hazards, they're not good for us. Not all money is good money. I mean, is your health, is your property worth all this? My answer would be no. But my answer is not the end all to everything. I would be working for District 2. My constituents would have to say in how we went. So it's, not just my say in what goes on, but my personal opinion is they are no good for us. Thank you.
Once again, I want to say thank you to everybody for having me here tonight. Calvert is at a crossroads. We're seeing it, and whether it's high-density housing, big corporations, as data centers or what have you, but you can't let fear rule the day. It's always going to be raining. It always is. There's always something. I've been through COVID. I've been through budget shortfalls. It's always going to be raining. But at the end of the day, what is the quality of life worth? What is the quality of life when you look out your window, when you drive up the road, and you're sitting in traffic, or you're just a constant demands for more and more services to keep up with these things? What's it worth? So for me, that quality of life is priceless. And whatever it takes to keep that, and I don't mean bowing down to anything that comes down the pike. I will tell you, whatever the next board is, trust me, it will rain. It always does. Something will happen. How will you respond? I've been through a lot of it, and whatever that is, as long as you live within your means, keep the core values that we've always had here with communication, talking to everybody, but understand that there's no quick fixes. Whether it was an LNG facility, whether it's anything, we have to stay within our means, and no matter what, we cannot give up that quality of life. And these data centers or what have you could threaten that. So thank you.
Thank you. This has been a very enjoyable experience. Thank you all for coming out. When I started my campaign, I made a pledge that I will only serve 8 years. I have self-term limited myself. 8 years maximum. So if I'm elected after 8 years, then new leaders should come on board with fresh ideas and everything. Now, I have this one question. Has anyone here ever had to clear a paper jam from your copier or your printer? I'm sure you have, right? Does that make you a copier technician or a printer technician? No, of course not. No. I have a garden. Does that make me a farmer? No, I'm not a farmer. Now, there's so much I don't know about farming. What I do know is that it takes long hours, hard work, perseverance, and a deep love for the land. I have a tremendous respect for what you do, and have given the honor of serving you on the Board of County Commissioners. I will listen, learn, and work every day to protect Calvert's farms and our rural way of life in the Chesapeake Bay. I am Patrick E. Flaherty, and I humbly ask for your vote this primary. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you so much to the Farm Bureau and to each of you for being here tonight and for having us. And data centers, just point blank, are an existential threat to Calvert County. We have probably the most fragile legal system on the whole entire East Coast, and this is a risk that is unacceptable. Now that that's out of the way, the future of Calvert County, I got 60 more years to live here, and it is not a binary choice between data centers and high density. The future value of Calvert County comes from the farms, the agriculture, the agritourism, that all of you, that all of the Farm Bureau help support. And as much conversation as we hear of, oh, we're going to do what Frederick County does, what Loudoun County does, what Mecklenburg County, Virginia does, I propose instead that we do what Calvert County does. We will be one of the last places around the DC area, around the whole entire East Coast that remains rural, and I think there's tremendous economic value in being unique and staying the course that has worked for Calvert County for so long, rather than changing it up just because a peer county has. So again, thank you so much, and I hope to, for the questions that we didn't have time to get to, I'm happy to stick around, answer chat one-on-one, and I humbly ask for your trust and your vote.
Thank you. I too want to thank Farm Bureau and all of you for coming out tonight, and my fellow candidates for showing up. It's always interesting to come to a forum and hear the questions and hear the answers. But look, here's what I've learned in the last 8 years, and you all got a glimpse of that tonight just in our little discussion. You have a good idea, you think that'll work, but then when you really get into how it fits in the puzzle, it doesn't always fit so well. And when you get in this job, there are so many things that come up that you don't know anything about, that you have to make decisions on. And you represent 94,000 people. You don't represent 10 or 15 or whatever. You have to represent everybody. You have to listen to everybody. And even those people that you meet out on the street that quietly whisper in your ear, their voice counts too. And so you have to listen. And to keep this county, the rural nature that it is, and the quality of life, is a very hard thing to do. It's a challenge. We're surrounded by water. We don't have a lot of opportunity, but it costs. Quality of life costs money. Schools, our school system, we've talked over and over, if you've watched our meetings, about how much new money we've had to put in the school system in the last 3 or 4 years. That's not going to stop. You all moved here. I hear it over and over again. We moved here for the schools. What happens to the schools when you can't fund them at the level they need? It's easy to talk about cuts. I tell everybody it's really easy to cut. It's the impact that follows those cuts. Worked really hard the last 8 years. I'll continue to work. We appreciate your vote this coming election season. Thank you very much for coming.
I want to thank the Farm Bureau and everyone here. I've worked, of course, for Calvert County government for 33 years, so I know the inside, and I think that brings something different to the table. I can't say that I know everything. I wish I did, but I don't. I do know, I grew up on a farm, and I know what growth can do to a farm, because growth took my family's farm away. The extension of Route 2 and 4 in the 80s took the entire front of the farm, and then the access road took the back of the farm. So I understand what it is to be a farmer and to lose pretty much everything you have for growth. So I'm here for you all. I'm here to listen. Any things that you would want to change, I'm here. I'll try to do my best to help you through it. So I would absolutely love to have your vote, and I hope everyone has a good evening and everybody be safe.
So I'm a private sector guy. I own a business. And no offense to those of you that have served in the government or state government, but I firmly believe that a local government is run more efficiently by those in the private sector or that have owned a business. You know, data centers have consumed social media. They've consumed our very board. They're constantly putting fires out about this data center. It's all data, data, data. And I can't stand it. There are lots of other topics that need to be addressed in our county. And sometimes we just gotta take a break from the data center. Okay, well, what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself if you are better today than you were 4 years ago. For me as a conservative, I have to say no. I pay more real estate tax today. My income tax has gone up. The government has grown. And that's not what I'm about. I think it's time for a fresh take on this. It's time for a private sector guy to be involved here. And if you agree with my platform, even if you don't agree and you want to talk about it, come talk about it. But I would appreciate your vote, and And I thank the Farm Bureau for the time. Appreciate it.
So I want to thank the Farm Bureau staff. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. And Mr. Phipps, thanks for being here to keep us straight. Over the last 4 years, we've worked very hard to strengthen public safety. We've increased our fire and EMS, all of our paid EMS, but we continue to contribute to our volunteer fire system. Our sheriff's funding, we just voted to make sure that we have a school resource officer in each school in the county this year to keep our kids safe. Our investment in education, Blueprint was pushed down through the state of Maryland, and it's 40% of our budget every year to the school system. So we've contributed about $10 million a year over the last 4 years. That's $40 million just going to the school system, which is very important. I mean, it's our students, it's our kids, it's our future. While I'm talking about that real quick, CTA has really bothered me a little bit because it's not big enough. We've had to turn down 83 students over the last year that didn't get a chance to get into a program. Financial leadership, we've strived to maintain our AAA bond rating. We've been blasted a little bit for our fund balance, which is out here, which is part of having to maintain that fund balance in order to get that AAA bond rating. I have several bullet points and I have several cards that I'm willing to pass out that has a lot of this on it that I'd like to share with you guys. But I'm going to live here the rest of my life as well, and I want to continue to serve you, the citizens of our county. I would appreciate your vote very much in our primary. Thank you.
So we have a fundamental question before us. What do we want Calvert County to look like? Do we want to preserve our rural character? Or do we want to sell off our land piece by piece to big corporations? I'm running because we need transparency on big decisions in this county that affect all of us. I'm running on common sense, and I'm running as a pro-small business candidate. I want to support the small businesses. So at the end of the day, I'm running to protect a quality of life, and I'm running to protect what makes Calvert County special. If you agree with that vision, then I would be honored to have your support. And I really do appreciate the Farm Bureau tonight. I do appreciate all of you sitting here listening and getting a chance to get to know us, especially those that are non-incumbents, and really listen. Thanks so much.
Good evening. Yeah, still evening, not good morning. But thank the Farm Bureau, thank everyone for being here also. As I'm sitting here, we're wrapping up, first of all, I'm thinking like, whew, I made it through, because I had no idea what questions we were gonna ask. So this was amazing. I was on the school board for 4 years. I was on the school board, so we had budgets. We had a $22.5 million deficit that we had to deal with. So I've been through different times, really difficult times on the school board, and we made it through. We're going through difficult times now. I think for a county commissioner, I think that we have to see past letters behind people's last names and all that other stuff. And we really have to focus on people, individuals. Get back to, I had a conversation earlier, we have to get back to in Calvert County was a place where you took care of each other, you had empathy for one another, and you worked to finish problems and complete them together. I'm a mediator and I'm a basketball official. So those are two worlds that people are in conflict. So I think sometimes we have to be able to sit down, have a conversation, and be able to work through situations together. That's what I was able to do today. I loved the conversations that I was able to have with everyone. So yes, I'm asking for your vote also. My name is Antoine White. I'm running for Calvert County Board of County Commissioners at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm aware of two facts. Number one, I'm the only thing between you and that door. And number two, for one of the very few times in my life, because I've lived in a house with a 6-year-old and a 92-year-old, I get to have the last word. It's unheard of, so tonight's a good night. But let me just end on a very upbeat with a quote from an unknown author who said, "Being a farmer is a state of mind." Those words speak to the mindset of farming, that farming is not just a job, and that the heart of a farmer lies in their passion for growth, their commitment to nurturing, an unwavering spirit that shapes every single detail that they have to work for every day. So I would just keep that in mind. I respect the hard work that you do. I worked very hard over a long career. I hope you'll have an opportunity to get to know me before the election. And I want to also thank the folks who put this together, because I think this was a great use of time. And thank you, and good night.
I want to thank the candidates. They very well impressed me with their willingness to participate, with their respectfulness of one another, and with respect for the time constraints we've had upon their answers. You all did a great job. Audience, I want to thank you for being respectful as well. And now we can break the rules and show our appreciation to these candidates. With that, I'm going to turn the program back over to Vice President Stauffer for closing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Phipps. Again, thank you to the candidates and to the audience for showing up today. I'd also like to acknowledge our Calvert County Board of Directors for the Farm Bureau. If you're a Farm Bureau member, please stand up so we can acknowledge you. Big thanks to Kathy Cosgrove. I want to remind everyone that you don't have to be a farmer to be a Farm Bureau member. We'd love to have you as members, and we can get you signed up tonight. Also this Saturday, the Calvert County Farm Bureau is proud to host the regional Southern Maryland Farm Bureau picnic. It will happen at the Horsman Farm in St. Leonard. You'll receive an invitation in the packet, and we'd love to see you there. And the candidates are also free to join us there as well. On behalf of the Farm Bureau, we appreciate this opportunity to host this forum and highlight the role agriculture plays in our community. We encourage everyone to stay engaged, learn about the candidates, and come out to vote. Again, the primary election is going to be on June 23rd. Thank you all. Have a safe evening.